Today I'm going to talk about measuring ingredients, but I'm going to do that by making a chocolate cake. First I need to line the tin. I can use any small tin for this. I'm going to choose the loaf tin today. I'm going to line it with baking paper. And first of all, I turn the tin over and use the base of the tin to mark the corners. And then cut in on each end. This side's a little bit long, so I'm just trimming that. By using nice neat lining in your cake tin, your cake will end up looking better. Okay, now we're measuring the ingredients. Because they're dry ingredients to start with, I'm using measuring cups. And I'm starting with measuring plain flour. We need 1.5 cups of plain flour. So to measure dry ingredients, you scoop and then use the back of a knife to smooth it out and to push all the excess off. That was 1.5 cups of plain flour. With the raw sugar, which is next, it's 3/4 cup. So you can use a 1/2 cup and a 1/4 cup, but I'm actually going to reduce the amount of sugar a little bit. You can see that the sugar actually settles on its own, so it's not really necessary to use the knife. Next is cocoa powder. And because the cocoa powder has lumps in it, I'm going to sift it. I could use one of these sifters that you turn, but it's only a small amount, so I'm just going to use this sieve. It's a bit harder to get an accurate measurement for the cocoa powder because of the lumps, but it's also less important that the cocoa powder measurement is accurate. So that's 1/3 cup of cocoa powder. And then we need 1 teaspoon of bicarb soda. And bicarb soda is always lumpy, so I would always sift that. So the raising agent in this cake is a combination of bicarb soda and apple cider vinegar. I've just added a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So now we'll put this through the sieve. And mix the dry ingredients together. One of the things that I like about this cake is it's so quick and easy to mix. You don't need electric beaters. You're not using butter in it, so you don't need to cream the butter and the sugar together with beaters. So we've mixed the dry ingredients and I've made a well in the middle. Now we're measuring the wet ingredients. We're not going to use a measuring cup. We're going to use a jug for wet ingredients. So my jug has the measurement on the side saying 250 mils, which is 1 cup. And we need 1 cup of water. When you're measuring water, you really need to, or any liquid, you really need to get down to the same level as the measurement line that you're filling to check that it's accurate. And now we're adding some vanilla extract. We could use vanilla paste or vanilla essence, but you'd use a little bit less if you're using those. You can measure the liquid ingredients that are small amounts in the same measuring spoons as the ones that you use for dry. And now we need the oil. We need 1/3 cup of oil. I could just add it to the top of this jug, except that above a cup, the jug doesn't have 1/3, so I have to measure it in a smaller jug. 1/3 cup of oil, and I will add that into the larger jug with the rest of the liquid ingredients. And finally, the apple cider vinegar. So a lot of cakes have self-raising flour. Some of them have plain flour and baking powder. This one uses plain flour and then a combination of bicarb soda and apple cider vinegar. For cakes to rise, you need acid and alkali, and baking powder has a combination of acid and alkali in it. We've added the acid, which is the cider vinegar, and the alkali, which is the bicarb soda, separately. And as soon as they combine, the air starts being added into the mixture. So you do want to get this in the oven pretty quickly. We're just doing a quick mix here. It doesn't take very long to incorporate those ingredients. And then we use the spatula to scrape it into the tin. It's a fairly thick batter, so it will need to be flattened down. And then, just in case there's any big bubbles underneath, you can drop the tin a couple of times firmly from a fairly low height on the bench, and that gets out any big air bubbles. Now this will go into the oven for about 40 minutes. And here it's done. It's a small cake, so it's easy to lift out to the cooling rack. And when it's cool, we can ice it with chocolate icing, or we could sprinkle it with icing sugar, or we could just leave it as it is.